into this in the conversation down the line, but you know, and our services and what we do, you know, CCIJ, traditionally years ago when we first came to be as a fiscally sponsored project, it was a merger of two collaboratives. It was the rapid response collaborative and a removal defense collaborative, and it was a merger, right? And the idea behind the creation of CCIJ was this idea of universal representation, right? Everyone deserves a right, or everyone deserves access to an attorney, which is why we have these legal clinics, right? But of course, the demand is always like blows out of the water the supply of actual attorneys. It is naive and impossible to think there's going to be an attorney for every single person in detention right now. Currently, we're back to pre-pandemic numbers in detention. About 35,000 people at any given time are now in immigration detention, right? So it'll be very challenging to have an attorney be present in court, right? And we'll hear a little bit about even the statistics. When you do have an attorney in court, right, your chances of winning are much higher than when you are represented pro se. So, you know, and who does that impact? That impacts, you know, about 80% of the people that are in immigration detention right now, at least in Mesa Verde, Golden State, the two facilities that we provide the legal clinics, are people that have been transferred from state custody, the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, right? And these are individuals that have been impacted by the criminal legal system. And we know that the criminal legal system, as well as the immigration system, overwhelmingly impact people of color, right? Black, brown, indigenous people of color, trans, queer people as well. So, you know, yeah, so that is who's impacted. And right now, as of actually December of 2022, when we were successfully able to terminate the Yuba contract, currently all detention facilities in California are privately owned and operated by the GEO Group, CoreCivic, or Management Training Corporation, right? And so current trends, I don't even know if we should call it current trends. I think really like these are consistent patterns. By design, these things happen, right? When, as I just said, all the detention facilities in California are privately owned and operated, right? It's based off of this business model, and these for-profit business models, essentially, right, is make more money, right? How do you spend less to make more? So they're not really current trends. Again, by design, at its root of detention is making sure that these corporations make more money, right? And what does that look like in terms of advocate, or what does that look like in terms of how people are being impacted on the inside? And again, I'm not someone who's directly impacted. I'm glad to see that my friend Jose Ruben is here, who will speak more about this. Anecdotally, I can share with you what folks have shared with me through our legal representation and also through our support and leadership development. But again, you know, this is stuff that isn't new, unfortunately, and it keeps impacting people's lives, right? We look at medical negligence when there's absolutely no doctor on site, right? Or they only come once a week, and or maybe not even once a week, and the person that is there is not even a nurse practitioner, right? Who's just giving you Tylenol or even cough drops, right? Medical negligence is a huge thing, not just in California, but as you saw in the South and other places as well. The level of unhealthy food, you know, that we often think about, like, you know, in terms of even CCIJ as an abolitionist organization that we want to eradicate, right? Abolish ICE, immigration detention, and abolish ICE in the state of California. You know, there are some realities that we have to confront, and which is, yes, as we're fighting towards the shutdown of these facilities, people on the inside still have to live, right? And if people on the inside aren't even getting fruits and vegetables every day, right, are getting spoiled food. We just put out a food report a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe at this point, about what people are finding in their food: hair, mold, nails. I mean, again, I won't go into it. Jose Ruben is here, and unfortunately, will share a little bit about his testimony and his experience in immigration detention. But yes, I mean, the list goes on, you know. And and last but not least, you know, we're year 3 into this pandemic. The federal government may say that the pandemic is over and we're back to normal, and you know, sometimes we're at fault. I'm at fault at pretending like, hey, maybe I don't need to use a face mask, but really there was just another outbreak in the facility, right? And what happens when there's an outbreak in the facility? Conversations with attorneys with legal representation get canceled, right? Someone's going to prepare to have a hearing, and guess what? No one can leave the dorm because of COVID, and so people are where they were going to have a hearing, now they have to be postponed for another several weeks or a month. That prolongs people's attention. Again, private prison corporations, they make money every single day at a daily rate for someone at that bed, right? So the federal government is pushing these cases forward. So COVID outbreaks, unhealthy food, medical negligence, that the list goes on. And with these, we have to think about it in this kind of twofold conversation. When people are less preoccupied about the violations, human rights violations, the food that they're eating, the medical care that they're getting or not getting, may be more able to focus on their legal case, maybe more able to focus on talking to their families, right? We had a client recently who avoided calling home because he was in such incredible pain because a doctor wasn't on staff and wasn't able to receive medication, right? Wasn't able to talk to his attorney, someone on our staff, because of these issues, right? So, and I say that because this is where we have to also reconcile with the fact that there are limits to the law, right? And when there are limits to the law, we have to think creatively and outside of the box in terms of how people organize on the inside, how people win their releases from the inside and on the outside, right? And so that kind of brings me to this level of advocacy and where that has led us in California, and also the battles that we've won. One that I mentioned regarding the Yuba County Jail. But one thing is, and two things I think for folks that are just watching and probably don't know a little bit of, or don't know about immigration detention, but detention is not necessary, right? One thing, like people don't need to be detained. Simple, right? The second thing is ICE can release anyone at any moment. And when you acknowledge, and when we really think about these two statements, then we say, okay, people can actually be released when the limits of the law is not going to release them, right? And we've seen that happen before, where there are cases of individuals that were in detention who, I think procedurally were not able to avail themselves or were not able to win a case, but through advocacy, through organizing, through bigger campaigns that are bigger than the law, was able to get released. And now this person is out living in the community with his family in the Bay Area, and is working on reincorporating themselves into the community, right? So, I think, yes, legal clinics are important. That, going back to that point, legal clinics are important to provide people with legal knowledge and access to pro se material. And if cases, depending on different cases, we're able to refer them to different attorneys. At the same time, it allows us to also think about, okay, how are we tracking data? How are we using the information that we're gathering from folks on the inside to start to map out trends, right? That's how we were able to say, oh my God, we scheduled, we're having a clinic for 20 people, all 20 people canceled. Why is that? Oh, there's an outbreak in the facility, right? Oh, we saw just a week ago, we saw a large group of community arrests, specifically Russian migrants, right? And Eastern European migrants. We start to track that, and it's like, okay, this is the trend. What is going on? What is the government doing, right? Where do these folks come from? And when we start to see, oh, they're community arrest. All right, everyone. A year to the presidential election, we're seeing this glitch in community arrest. We got to get ready. We're a year out from the presidential election. We got to get ready, right? So those are all the different things. Like I mentioned, like, yes, legal clinics, universal representation, yes, all that is very important. But at the same time, using technology, organizing, and advocacy, we can find creative ways to shut down a facility. We can find creative ways to help someone like Jose Ruben create a platform so they're able to speak out against all the different issues that are going on in immigration detention. Intimidation, all of that, and even the use of solitary confinement in immigration detention is a tool to break up that type of organizing. But we've seen in the last several years that when we have this kind of holistic, multi-pronged approach, that we're able to actually have successes. Jose Ruben is here with us because of arguably because of a configuration of that formula, but it's to acknowledge that the law won't save us, and in reality, we got to think about this as a holistic picture. So before I actually end the conversation, I wanted to say that some of the advocacy and other wins that we've been able to do, like in this partnership, has been the $1 a day lawsuit. We've been able to file private prison operators for paying $1 a day for work, which I know Jose Ruben will speak to. We've also been able to pass legislation at the state level to ensure that private prison operators abide by and adhere to public health orders. And that's another reason, another way for the state to actually have more oversight on these facilities. Inspections aren't abolitionist, but I think in the long term, when you're creating a database, when you're creating, evidence against the facility, those are wins in the long term. And, last but not least, the termination of the UBA contract, the last public contract in California, has been terminated because of this community legal partnership and because of the data that we've been able to capture and because of strong individuals like Jose Ruben who speak up. So that's a little bit about background and context at CCIJ, and thank you so much for having me. I'll pass it back to you, Anna.
Thank you so much, Edwin. I think it was a lot of material for our audience to learn and to hear. But we, as a group of colleagues who are strong advocates to put an end to this inhumane practice, for us is very important that people who, like you, who are joining us today, are here, are listening to the issues, to what is happening on the ground, so that we together, through advocacy efforts, can make a change and hopefully eradicate this practice. For those of you who have started to join, our event today is on immigration detention facilities and the atrocities that take place specifically in the state of California. And just to remind everyone, this very a fact that we should not be proud of. Our country manages the largest immigration detention system in the world. And California is listed as one of the states that has the highest number of individuals in immigration detention. Before passing it to Jose Ruben, I do want to acknowledge how people in detention are also undergoing a lot of emotional stress, the family separation, the fear of being returned to dangerous conditions, including asylum seekers who are detained. Who is being detained are people who have recently crossed our border fleeing persecution, of people who have been apprehended in the interior of the country. So with those some little background, I want to pass the floor to Jose Ruben. We're very fortunate to have you, Jose Ruben. On my intro remarks, I wrote formerly detained leader and a fierce immigration advocate, and I just feel very energized to see this description next to your name. And I want the audience to feel that energy after hearing from what you will be sharing with us today, as someone who experienced and survived immigration detention, and as someone who is brave enough to advocate for those compañeros, compañeras, compañeres who are still detained, and using your voice for people like us and our audience to learn more about what's going on. So Jose Ruben, I would like to pass the floor to you. Please make use, this is your space. Please share with us as much or as little as you want on what you endured, on what you witnessed. And we have, I think we have some of a techie community in the audience. How is technology being used in immigration detention facilities? Because we all think that tech should be used for good, but is that what's happening? I'll pass it to you, Jose Ruben. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's an honor to be here with y'all. Yeah, just first and foremost, I want to just start off by saying, I'm thankful to Edwin and y'all, especially through all the organizations for being able to, to help me get my liberation. Because I don't know where I would be if it wasn't for these organizations, So, and me being in detention for 16 months, I've seen a lot, experienced a lot. And I must say that, yeah, just the technology just being used in these detention centers is just, I could say that they're manipulating it for their own use, and when I'm saying for them is basically these facilities, corporations, ICE, GEO, So I feel like for me, my experience was just, I could say that, like I suffered a lot of like medical negligence as well as others, Like one example of the medical negligence that I experienced is that while I was there in these detention centers, I was there 16 months, but I remind you, and I have never got treated by an eye doctor. Never got treated by an eye doctor. So my vision just worsened, So I come out here and I get treated by an eye doctor within, matter of weeks. So even being treated for I'm gonna be like a little explicit on my on what I'm gonna speak. Like basically I had a really bad ingrown toenail where I was barely able to walk. I had to deal with that for 4 months. But like, I had to deal with that for 4 months and then until I got treated. I mean, so I went through that pain and suffering for a long period of time. I mean, I could speak about like even just one example of somebody who had a hernia for over 6 months and never got treated. So when we would file these grievances, it was really difficult. Filing grievances is really difficult. Why? Because the time that they gave us to file a grievance was less than 30 minutes. And when you want to follow a complete detailed, and especially when you're doing research per the performance-based national detention standards, when you're basically trying to cite those codes and you're trying to punch it into the tablet, that's not enough time. You know what I mean? So when they give you less than 30 minutes to file a grievance, like they basically shut the whole tablet system, and then you have to start all over. So it was intended for you to just like not be too for you not to file a complete, well detailed grievance. I mean, especially when it's basically, it's reinforced by facts, by standards. And I could say that like they for example, medical negligence, right? When you're filing something for medical negligence, basically like they have until 5 days to respond to your grievance. 5 days is too long. Like if I need something to be treated, or if something's bothering me or something I'm being violated in any way or form, I need a response immediately, like in already, like, you know what I mean? So it shouldn't take 5 days for them to respond, So you're dealing with 5 days of the abuse and mistreatments within these detention centers, and you have to wait 5 days for them to file it. So and I can say, I mean, me being bilingual in speaking in Spanish and reading and writing, right? It's even for me, it was difficult to navigate this. Imagine like people who like now imagine, put yourself in, like, if you think about people who have mental disabilities, like they cannot file a grievance. Like they have, so it has to take for somebody like us, like somebody who could basically be open to, be open to helping them out. You know what I mean? And still like still having that in mind, that the fear of being retaliated against, being retaliated against is not well. Like, you're gonna be, disrespected. You're gonna be like, talked down on by staff. You know what I mean? You're gonna be, you to the point where you're gonna even be placed in solitary confinement. So I mean, but we take those risks because we know that it's the right thing to do for folks. But imagine like if it wasn't anybody, like if there was anybody like us that was willing to just basically be the forefront, you know what I mean? The front for these detained folks, so, and then on top of that, you have, folks that cannot speak English or cannot read English. These tablet systems are all in English. and they don't even know how to navigate the tablet like that. So they have to look for somebody to file a grievance. And at the times, like if it's something sensitive, you know, they have to be like, I gotta find somebody who I can trust so they can file a grievance. So that's even more difficult for them, you know. So it just I could say that, you know, that was my experience with that, you know. But yeah, just these I could say that this detention centers experience was just like was really traumatizing for me, you know, like basically being subject to the sexual abusive pat downs, you know what I mean? You know, and then you filing a pre-allegation, like the Prison Rape Elimination Act, you know what I mean? So when you're filing something through the grievance system, you know, and they're doing the investigation, you know what I mean? And they're not going to basically find their own people guilty, you know? So once you have that in mind, you're like, dang, like, and even though they have camera footage of what's going on, not being used, when we refer, hey, look, refer to your camera on this time, still, they tell you it didn't happen. You know what I mean? You never experienced that, or, you know, so, and when you're like, and when you're talking to like the coordinator for the Prison Rape Elimination Act, like they'll tell you such comments like, as long as they're not lingering enough, you know what I mean, it's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay. Like no, as long as they're not dwelling on your private areas, it's okay. Like, no, it's not okay. Like that's hurtful. Like I mean, to me, it was just a traumatizing you know, experience. And I could say that, like, you know, but being that, like, you know, we stand for our rights and basically showing other folks that, look, you're not alone. You can do this yourself too as well. You know what I mean? You don't have to keep enduring this type of suffering, you know. So yeah, so like I could say that the technology that they have in place is just, you know, they don't, it's really limited. They manipulate it, you know, they and it goes nowhere, you know. It just goes nowhere. And it's just like, when you have that in mind, and when you have a warden, this is Warden Vasquez, right? This is the warden at Mesa Verde. He's telling us, I'm not gonna find your grievances true, even though they are true. I'm not gonna find them true because I don't want you to basically make copies of these grievances and send them out to your attorneys, and then you guys gonna use it against us. A straight criminal mentality, like that's, you know. So that when you have that in mind, you're like, all right, then, not like, you're already telling me like, my whatever I feel, whatever I'm going through, whatever relation I'm going through, it doesn't mean nothing to you. Like, it's not going to go anywhere because you're trying to cover up for your facility. You're trying to cover up for these corporations that are making billions of dollars. You know what I mean? Like, that's their whole purpose. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's I could say that even like the day that you know, when we were going through all these violations, and knowing that, you know, being disrespected, being talked down on as you know, like worse than a child, you know what I mean? And this was being done in front of the case Oído, the ombudsman, you know, for the ICE detention centers, Stephanie Guzman. She's witnessing all this, you know what I mean? She's witnessing, you know, like this warden yelling at us, you know, belittling us, and nothing is being done. You know, these are the, you know, so once you're, you know, once you're able to, you're experiencing that, and you know that, and then on top of that, you're getting paid $1 a day to clean. You know what I mean? Like, you're getting paid $1 a day, which is like below, like way below wage. That's straight slavery. You know what I mean? So, and then you having to purchase, you know, expensive and molded commissary, like, no. And then on top of that, like, you have to resort to this commissary because you're getting, like, as Edwin mentioned, you're you're subject to eat, you know, food that they're providing with that they, at times, you find foreign objects, insects, rocks, you know what I mean? So once people start like experiencing all that, like, we decided to say, you know what, that's enough's enough. We're gonna go on a labor strike. We're standing up for rights. We're making a stand. But Unfortunately, what we experienced was retaliation on that. We were placed in solitary confinement. We were basically like, yeah. So, and the sexual abusive patterns increased. Like it was just to a point where like it was difficult. It was really difficult, and just I want to say that we were dehumanized. We were treated less than human beings. But so I'm gonna give you another example. Like even being when we were getting in September 1st, 2022, when we were getting dark rusted water, they refused to provide us bottled water, like clean bottled water. They refuse us that. That's the essential necessities of living. Like even that, like, so I could say that all through all this, all these violations, all this dehumanization, we all decided, what, since we got to stick to the next level, we need to get somebody's attention. So what we did is basically went on a hunger strike, a collective hunger strike. You know what I mean? And when we did a hunger strike, basically, we got these visits from ICE, from Richard Shanks, saying that, we're going to see what we can do, but we already knew their patterns. Like, oh yeah, they make it look good, but when they come just to take notes, they'll come back with retaliation. You know what I mean? So for me, I could say that, that's what I experienced. Like Richard Chang coming in and basically asking us, hey, what do you guys want? Oh, we'll look into it. Next thing you know, you got GO officers all dressed up in riot gear. You got ICE officers dressed up in military gear. You got them all, carrying, lethal weapons, batons, pepper sprays, actually firearms. You know what I mean? Like, and telling us to get down on the floor, like, and then them cutting off all communication. The tablet system was not working. The phone systems were not working. We wanted to speak to our attorneys, like, because we didn't know, like we actually wanted to speak to our attorneys because they were telling us, you guys are gonna come with us. Where? Medical needs you, but there's no medical staff right there on site. All we see is just the GO officers and a chaplain, and ICE officers and a chaplain, even the chaplain is the religious, person is telling us you got to go with them. You know what I mean? Like, and this is by force. You know what I mean? That's a scary feeling. Like I'm afraid. I'm terrified at the moment. I want to seek refuge to my attorney. Like I need your help, but that was not given to me. Why? Because they cut off all communication. So my experience of just basically just being dragged, you know what I mean? Like them telling me, like, I always think for their standards, they're telling us that ICE is there to protect us. ICE is there to look out for us. ICE is there to, but in all reality, when ICE comes in front of me and tells me, get up, now to ask them, hey, can you please let me speak to my attorney? All they do is basically drag me from my legs and throw me on the ground and basically yank my arms behind my back and press on my back and slam me on my face and my shoulder and handcuff me, like, and telling me stuff like, either you walk or we're gonna drag you. You know what I mean? Having to experience all this and not having the opportunity for somebody to just basically, and not having the chance to, like, communicate our concerns to anybody. Like at that moment, we're like, and being sent out to Texas, basically them telling us, hey, the only reason why you're here is because you're not eating. You know what I mean? And our purpose is here is to make sure that you eat. And what we practice in here in Texas is force feeding. You know what I mean? Like here in Texas, we can actually get a quarter and get force feeding you. And I'm gonna tell you the procedure of force feeding, which is, strapping you down to a bed and running tubes down your nose, down to your throat, all the way down to your esophagus, and pumping liquid food into you. You know what I mean? Like, and still, like I said, and once I get there in Texas, like when I wanted to file agreements through medical, I had to do it on paper. And when when I did it on the tablet, it was limited, and they told me, well, we're not going to respond to your agreements because it's not on paper. We have actual specific papers for that, so we're not going to respond to any of your grievances. You know what I mean? So and when I would ask them, well, this is difficult for me. Well, there's therapeutic for you. I was like, those are the type of responses that I was getting from medical. Like I said, that was my experience, and it's been really difficult, and that's why I stay strong in this movement, because I've been through a lot of suffering, and I know folks inside are going through a lot of suffering, so, and that's why once I was liberated, I continued advocating. I reached out to my my representative, Josh Harder's office. You know what I mean? I reached out to him. Hey, look, this is what I experienced. They violated me in every way or form. And then when they reached out to them, who they talked to was Richard Chang. Richard Chang basically told them, "Hey, I'm not gonna respond to I can't respond to any of that because just misleading them. You know what I mean? Just lying to them, misleading them to, so." And that's why I continue this. I continue because they're manipulating the whole system itself for their own convenience, for them to profit. You know what I mean? For them to make billions of dollars at the cost of our suffering. You know what I mean? So I could say that, like, from my experience, I'm really thankful for these, like, folks as yourselves. You know what I mean? Because you guys are in the fight for us. You guys are letting us know that we're not alone. And to me, that's empowering. And I could say that, like, even now, like, that's why I want to, like, just share that we got this pilgrimage going on. October 26th to the 29th, we'll be stopping by at different detention sites. And I mean, and basically promoting, like, healing for our people, for our immigrant community, for our people, for just I just want to say, just like, for just human dignity itself. You know what I mean? We just just provide, because at this moment, I'm healing myself. I'm still healing from all the trauma. I'm still healing from the medical neglect, because, and I can say that I'm still healing because, while I was in Texas, and they basically denied me, they denied me vitamins, they denied me electrolytes, they denied me the necessities I needed to eat again. You know what I mean? So I'm dealing with neurological problems, just based on that, because they instead of them, providing me these necessities, they basically ended up giving me 2 cheeseburgers. They gave me 2 cheeseburgers with fries, and basically just messed me up. So I lost my disbalance. So I know I'm going, like, a little bit, retracting, but it's just I just wanted to give that experience as well, because, like, I'm still dealing with it. I'm still dealing with it. And yeah, so just on and the list goes on. The list goes on. Like, even I could tell you, like, how, when I was at the hospital, when I had to go be hospitalized for these neurological problems, right? When I was hospitalized, like, the same thing, they cut off all lines. They forced me, or they violently sent me to the hospital. They basically cut off all lines. They pushed me against the table. You know what I mean? GEO officers did this to me. They came in riot gear again. They pushed me against the table while I was dealing with confusion and vertigo. They pushed me against the table and yanked my arms behind my back, and basically aggravated the injury that I was already suffering from the previous extraction. So,
Thank Jose Ruben. It's unfortunate that we could continue going on and on, listening to your lived experience. You said so many powerful things, but thank you for staying strong. And I'm sure everyone here today is wishing that you recover and that you heal. And as a moderator, it's hard to come back to the conversation after hearing the part of your presentation. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today. I think, as I mentioned earlier, our government is spending millions, if not billions of dollars in this practice, and to hear through someone who lived through immigration detention, the violation of basic human rights, the lack of basic needs such as health assistance, solitary confinement, being separated from family. lack of access to legal representation, all those hurdles that people in detention are undergoing as we're speaking. I think that's why we're all here today. And Jose Ruben mentioned several times grievances. And I think it's important to acknowledge that not everyone has the opportunity to file a grievance, or not everyone willingly can file a grievance due to that fear of retaliation, due to that lack of access to technology. Some people may not be able to communicate in English, or write in English, or on another language. So these grievances, I believe, and as our next panelist Marisela will explain, are only a brief recollection and proof of what's really happening, as we heard, in immigration detention facilities, not only in California, but all over the US. Marisela, I'm going to pass it to you and my colleague Posey to talk a little bit about these grievances and the project that your team has been working very hard on, the California Immigration Detention Database. I will pass it now to you so you can tell us about this database, and also hear from Posey after your interactive presentation. We're all very excited to see the dashboard and see how you are working with it, and the plans that you have for it. I'll pass it to you, Marisela.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much to Jose Ruben for sharing your story and your experiences with us. I think it's something that really highlights, I mean, just your story really highlights the need of continuing advocacy, and also really highlights like just what exactly it is we want to do with this dashboard in terms of the grievance system, and really exposing the ugly truth of immigration detention. But first and foremost, I also really wanted to acknowledge and thank my colleague, Sana Singh, who's currently at Golden State Annex with CCIJ, assisting with the legal clinic. And also my former colleague, Kristen Perez, who's absolutely amazing, phenomenal, and really the brains behind this grievance dashboard that we started and launched in on June 26, 2023. So the two amazing folks that really started this project are not here, but I am honored to help and assist and to continue this work. So I'm going to go ahead and present, let's see here, or I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. So give me 1 second. Just want to make sure that y'all can see this. Okay. Great. Can folks see the immigration detention database?
We can see it.
Yay, great, awesome. So yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit more about the immigration detention database that was launched back in June 2023. Again, my name is Marisela Sanchez. I'm an investigator with ACLU of Northern California. I am based here in our Fresno office, and I work primarily with the immigrants' rights team, specifically in detention conditions investigations. So just wanted to lay or share a little bit more about what the actual database looks like on our website. As you can see here, we started collecting grievances from all of the immigration detention facilities in California. And this number will continue to grow. Posey, I just uploaded like a bunch of grievances like a couple of days ago. So the total number of grievances will jump next week once the database or the dashboard is refreshed. But yeah, so the ACLU launched this database. It was met with an outpouring of support from local advocates, and it garnered a lot of media attention because it is the first database of its kind that is tracking what is happening inside facilities. As that's reported by people that are detained, not by ICE, right? So we truly really appreciate Mobile Pathways and assisting us and really helping us like figure out how to gather the number of databases and how to incorporate the content of those databases or of those grievances into a database and through this dashboard that you're seeing now. So just a heads up, just in case folks aren't aware, there are 6 different immigration detention facilities across the state of California. There are 2 in Kern County, Golden State Annex, that just is the one that just recently opened, Mesa Verde ICE Processing Center. We also have the Adelanto ICE Processing Center and Desert View Annex in San Bernardino County. We have Otay Mesa Detention Center in San Diego County, and the Imperial Regional Detention Facility down south in Imperial County. Again, all these facilities are run by private for-profit prison corporations. So the purpose of this database is to publicly document what people in detention, such as Jose Ruben, who shared a lot of his experiences inside. We just wanted to highlight the grievances that folks have shared with us, including Jose Ruben and other advocates. And we just wanted to highlight like what has been argued for years, right? These aren't trends that, like how Edwin mentioned earlier, this is like the reality of what immigration detention is like. But we wanted to try and quantify that data on this database, and really show how these private for-profit companies rake in hundreds of millions of dollars annually while maintaining these facilities marred in systemic neglect, abuse, and how there is limited oversight in our state. A lot of the oversight that is being conducted um, is by like advocates and by organizations such as CCIJ, and for folks who were formerly detained, such as Jose Ruben. So some of the things that we're seeing, as you can see here, some of the top 3 grievance topics that we see coming through are staff conduct and facility administration issues. That includes inadequate facility management, harassment, intimidation, bullying, different conditions of confinement issues such as unsanitary living conditions, sleep deprivation, the terrible quality of food, and of course, medical care issues such as medical neglect. Medical neglect is definitely the most common grievance that we see. So, in terms of like lack of COVID-19 protection, inadequate medical care, and the denial of medication, we want to highlight that detention literally kills people. Just recently, ICE announced that Mr. Christian Dumitrescu, a 50-year-old Romanian national, recently died in immigration detention at Otay Mesa in March 2023, and that autopsy is still pending. So we wanted to highlight again just how deplorable like immigration detention really is, and we want to utilize this dashboard to show that the grievance system, it shows that immigration detention is not a system that can be reformed. It really needs to be dismantled. So really quick, as I walk you through what the detention database looks like, you can really mess with the different filters here. And this is also meant for advocates on the ground in different parts of California to utilize as we continue to do outreach on the ground, in person, in a different immigration detention centers. We hope to continue to gather more and more grievances to then upload to the database. Just recently, just yesterday, I was at Mesa Verde, and we were just talking about the grievance system, the database, and I just really appreciate all the support that we have been getting from folks inside who have been working through making copies of their grievances and then mailing them directly to us, to where we manually update and upload the database with the contents of those grievances. I think someone asked in the chat about how law students can help support, just in terms of overall immigration detention work. Fortunately, we were able to connect with UC Berkeley law students to help us upload the number of grievances to the database. So this number should definitely will continue to grow as again as we continue to get more support to upload grievances. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my this page, but again, if you do want to see this page, I'm sure we'll share the link to the actual database but it is living on our ACLU NorCal website. So just some future plans that we have for the dashboard. Excuse me, let me just, yeah, just some future plans that we have for the dashboard. As we continue to do more outreach in different parts of the California, we just really hope to garner more grievances and upload them to the dashboard itself. One thing that we also want to incorporate with this dashboard is, I mean, given that tracking data is currently a hot topic in the immigrants' rights space right now. So in addition to like NorCal tracking this data, a lot of our other colleagues across the nation are interested in utilizing a similar system, including ACLU National, which we are really excited about. But I mean, as the government continues to keep such a tight lid on what they share about detention conditions, again, the database is an opportunity to share data directly from people experiencing the harms of detention, um, and also just what their experience is like overall with the challenges in submitting grievances or getting access to the grievance system itself. So some of the issues that we've seen in detention that Husaroven has shared already a little bit is that some folks just cannot file grievances due to language access, technical difficulties with the tablet. Folks with disabilities have issues, have a hard time getting support from staff or from ICE to submit grievances. And one thing that we just learned just yesterday that is very concerning is that on the tablet, where there is an option to submit a grievance, there's options to submit it directly to GEO or to ICE. And unfortunately, it seems like the option to submit agreements directly to ICE is no longer available on the tablet, which means the only way to submit grievances is in a written format. And a lot of folks have mentioned, you know, folks do prefer written format, but a lot of folks inside have also mentioned that they do have concerns about submitting grievances via a document just because of they might get lost during the process of submitting the grievance, or also there's really no way of tracking it. There's literally a box on a wall where you like put this paper grievance inside, and then you have to wait a week, 2 weeks for ICE to come and pick up those grievances. And then you don't know, like, are they reviewing it? What's going to happen? So just the tracking of written grievances directly to ICE is very, very concerning. So let's see here. I know my time is running up. I will probably just quickly wrap up and pass the mic to Posey. But again, we just really want to continue quantifying the data regarding detention conditions issues. And folks, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any ideas of what we continue to do or what we should incorporate on the database. I think ACLU NorCal is always open to suggestions. So just really thanks again for allowing me to speak a little bit about this database. And yeah, I'll pass it over to Posey.
So first
Thank
of
you,
all,
Marisela. Oh, sorry, Posey. If I may just interrupt Posey briefly, because I do want the audience to catch what Marisela said about grievances. Important to keep in mind that these grievances are not being sent by ICE. These grievances are being provided by the impacted individuals. And did you catch, audience, that they are physically mailing those grievances from detention? So they're also paying to send out those grievances through physical mail. And those grievances are handwritten, and then Marisela's team has to wait for those grievances to arrive and then transcribe them, put them into electronic form so that then Posey can see them. So I just want the audience to kind of detect how these practices are happening in immigration detention. And also, of course, we're excited to launch dashboards and to keep tracking grievances, but each grievance is a violation to someone's humanity. So that's, it's really upsetting, but we thank you, Marisela, for the work that you're doing. And Posey, in your remarks, please explain to the audience that frustration that comes when you see that data and why you're frustrated and why there's not much that we can do about it.
Thank you. And you would think that in this day and age, with everybody having phones and um, tablets or laptops, that collecting data would not be an issue. However, when we're back on pieces of paper, um, translating that into a formalized database, making sure that the data collected is concise and in an analyzable format is extremely difficult. um, you think you can take a picture and that some program is just going to automatically fill in the form for you. That's not the case. When people write stuff, sometimes it's illegible, sometimes it's crammed in, sometimes it's not meeting the data formats that you and I have come to expect in a database where there are checkboxes, drop down lists, so that you can analyze the output. All that is not available when you are filling things out on paper. It takes longer to fill out things on paper. Language restriction becomes a big problem, data accuracy, and the effort. So, how do we solve this problem? You would think that the right answer is introducing laptops or tablets, but as you mentioned, even tablets, they put restriction on it to make sure that people's rights are limited. Their ability to register a grievance is limited. So this is really an injustice. What can we do on our end? We are using technology as much as possible. A lot of times, Marisol knows as well, is blood, tears, and sweat of typing things, checking things, manually reviewing things. I'm sorry, in 21st century, 2023, um, it's low tech, but we do what works. Right. We are able to spin up environments based on cloud-based technology so that we're making this data available to the public. And I'm encouraging folks to continue to leverage this database that we put together to use it for your advocacy work and help us grow and understand the injustice that's out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Posey. I think there's a commitment from Posey and from the Mobile Pathways team and from our partners to advocate for reform and justice, one dashboard at a time. We can see what the power. We can see through the power of data that there's hope for reform, for change, and we're being mindful of time. Together as panelists, we would like to share with the audience just our recommendations around immigration detention. We are calling for an end to this inhumane practice, and we are calling for alternatives to detention that are humane and that can reduce those high numbers of individuals being detained, those individuals being separated from their families. We thank our audience for sticking around. I think I warned at the beginning that this was going to be a very difficult and heavy topic, but we thank you for staying with us, and we ask you to utilize your voice to spread the word on what you learned today, to call your members of Congress, to remind your representatives that we are members of welcoming communities, and that we are here to advocate to put an end to this inhumane practice. And please support the amazing work of the organizations that were here with us today. The information, you may find it on our LinkedIn page. You may reach out to everyone via email. If you would like more information, please reach out to me directly. My colleague is dropping our email in the chat. But please stay in touch. Keep an eye for the next event. And I don't know if one of our panelists, any of our panelists have any closing remarks, but for me, that's I'm done talking. Thank you so much, especially to our panelists and to my family at Mobile Pathways for making this event happen. Thank you, everyone. Have a good Friday. Enjoy the weekend. A big hug. Un fuerte abrazo a todos. Bye-bye.